Okay, should be up.
Okay.
I'm just waiting to see it come online. There we go. All right, awesome. So cool, we're live. Okay, guys, how's everybody doing? And good morning. I said we're going to talk about Darkfall Unholy Wars with Tasos. We're very excited about the game. It's a huge announcement. It's #1 on MMORPG, and that's probably one of the cool parts for us. We know you guys are a super hardcore fan base, and we got some great questions for Tasos. So, Tasos, thanks for joining us across the pond. And why don't we get started with the basic question of what's your overall philosophy for Unholy Wars? It was a great announcement. It was really exciting. So tell us kind of what your plan was and how it came about.
Okay, well, thanks, Garrett and MMORPG.com for the opportunity to address questions posted by the community, and thanks to those who are watching or listening and for the interest in Darkfall and Unholy Wars. So just to address your question, it's basically applying the lessons learned and doing the things we wanted to do that we didn't get the opportunity to do during the original Darkfall. But it's not so much about fixing the old game. It's making a new game that improves on the previous philosophy. So I noticed that the community has been asking questions that apply more to the current game in its final state, and doing that, you're bound to get a lot of boring answers because if you have to compare the two games, you should really compare the launch states and the potential. And the original game is a product of 10 years of development, and it's community and then player feedback and all that. There's been a long process of updates and expansions. So it's really unfair to the new game in a way that the players have the old game in mind, and they know so much about the old game that they're asking questions specific to the old game, and well, a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So I think we really need to compare the platforms and their potential to understand the philosophy behind the new game. And the new game, it's a totally different beast. It plays differently, it handles differently, it works differently, and not just on the player end. The previous game was pretty rigid compared to this one, and I'm talking not just on the player side, but also on the developer's end. And this is what I'm talking about right now on our end. And it was difficult for us in the first game to reconfigure things, and we made the game so that we can reconfigure things, that we can change things around, add things a lot faster, and we have a better capacity to do that now. We have more tools, we have better tools. The technology platform has evolved, and it gives us tremendous capabilities compared to the previous game. So we developed this game in less than 2 years. So the goal is of launching a solid AAA quality game that's also an efficient platform on which we can build on and keep building on. And this was why we had a need to make a new game, and we just didn't evolve the last game to what we wanted to achieve. So the community feedback we had on the previous game, it was almost overwhelming for our capacity. And Darkfall and Unholy Wars, we should be able to keep up with these requests. First, because the game is more flexible, we can make changes and additions a lot quicker. Our team is larger, better, our internal process is better, and the game is much better. So we're going to also have, and this is really important for us, an effective player feedback loop between the players and the developers with direct developer interaction, something we didn't really have before. We had like community liaisons, but that's not the same thing. So we can discuss with the community about existing features, but also features that are coming up. And we also have a better way of collecting player data and using it to improve the game. And I think that this kind of sums up our philosophy for the new game. It's basically not the old game. So So what applied to the old game doesn't really apply to this game. It's quite different on many different levels. People are going to start discovering this as they start learning the new game.
Cool. It definitely looks good. We're watching some of the gameplay footage and the beta footage you guys have put out. It looks awesome. And like I said, the open sandbox, PvP, hardcore loot, drops, and that's where I started with Ultima, years and years ago. So I love that Darkfall carries that torch. So we'll go to our questions. The first one is from Jesudium 2012. I pronounce the name. And he said, as someone who's never played the original Darkfall, will they be able to purchase Unholy Wars and play right at launch?
Yeah, of course. And we're probably going to give people a chance to purchase it before launch, like pre-order, and offering some incentives. I know it's really close to launch, but still, it's good for us to test the account system and make sure everything's going all right before the actual launch. And we're going to give incentives to the players who had bought the original Darkfall, but also some to the players that haven't bought the game before. In the pre-order we're going to do next week sometime. It's a little hard to tell you which day exactly because right now we're racing to launch and things are happening at the last minute. So but it's going to be sometime next week, hopefully early next week. So yes, the answer is yes. You will be able to buy the game at launch.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the development cycle, it gets very, very tough. Everybody knows that. So, don't feel bad. It's how it goes. The next question has to do with dungeons, and it's from Butch808, and he's asking, are dungeons seamless, or do they have portals to instances?
All right. Well, the dungeons still have portals, but they never were instances. We always had portals on the dungeons. These are not instances. I think the players have been asking for just to walk into like a cave and just go into the dungeon. We understand the beauty of that, but we basically need this gives us the capability of going through a portal. It gives us the capability to use different lighting and environmental settings. So it's like a technical thing for us. But it's not an instance. It's just the portal just takes you to a different part of the world. It's just like any part of the world. And actually in our tool, the dungeons are under the world. And it's just, it's our need. Actually, the portal being there takes care of one of our technical requirements for the dungeon. So on instances, let me just say that we never have them, and we don't have them, and we very well might never have them because they don't really agree with our philosophy for a massive multiplayer game. And we always like to push the massive multiplayer envelope and have massive seamless world and no zones and we want player interaction to be at the maximum possible level and we don't want to limit this by instancing. So and these are basically differentiating factors for Darkfall and instancing. It's really not in our DNA. So we have invested so much time in innovating and researching solutions so we can have the largest seamless world online of its kind and getting thousands of players in a single battle, which is so important to us, and allowing unrestricted player interaction and all those things that make the game more massive. So we don't want to take away from that. And if we don't like the instances, and if we ever do go to any form of instancing, it's going to be because they improve our user experience and not because they're more convenient to us. Because usually instances are used for technical reasons, for convenience of the developer, and making and at a lesser point to actually improve gameplay ability of the game, especially in a super competitive game. Instances would just kind of defeat the purpose.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
Cool. We're going to talk. The big news, at least this is a big one for me, is this next question comes from Grumbags, and he says, will players be able to go into first-person view, or is it only third-person?
All right. Well, the question has kind of been answered, I think, by the last videos where we show first-person mode, but And there were a lot of people asking because in the first videos we put out, we didn't show the first-person perspective, but and they were looking at an over-the-shoulder camera we have in the game, which we think is pretty cool. This is a new perspective. First person though is one of our differentiating features, and players like it, so of course we're keeping it. So not only that, but the first person view for Darkfall and Unholy Wars is new. It's not the same as before. There's a new way of rendering it. It looks and feels much better, and it also allows for melee first person view, which we didn't have in the last game. And we tried to make first person view even better than it was before, since it's one of the factors that make Darkfall unique. So just to sum this up, there's a first-person view, a new first-person view. You have the tight third-person over-the-shoulder camera that's available to all characters. And additionally, there's the looser overhead camera, the one behind the back, that's available to melee weapon wielders only. So, we've actually added a perspective and fixed the first-person view to be even better.
Awesome, awesome. His next question from Gerbags as well is just kind of a big deal, which is mounted combat going to be viable? And I'll let you handle the mounted combat.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's going to be a warrior school that's going to be added in the future, in the near future actually, that benefits from mounted combat. So that's something new. At this point, there are no real major changes from the original Darkfall in how mounted combat works. But this is something we are looking into because it has awesome potential. Mounted combat is when I believe that when we introduced it, it was pretty uncommon to have it working like it does. And we have a lot of ideas on mounted combat, but we need to be careful because since they could create imbalances. Like if we allowed someone to do archery from a mount, that might be an imbalancing, actually an unbalancing factor for the game. So we actually need to introduce whatever changes we make to mounted combat slowly and carefully. So to sum up, it's one of the areas that we really want to put a lot of effort in, but and we're going to require a lot of player feedback. But as I said, it's something we're looking into, and it's not something that is happening immediately, save for the warrior class that actually uses mounted combat to its advantage.
Cool. That was a big one. Everybody seems really happy with that question. So, the next one is from Zappa, and Zappa says, AV has stated that portal chambers have been removed from player cities. Is this the only change related to the instant travel? Or does AV have plans for either introduction of moon gates or the removal of the House Recall? So I'll let you answer that one.
All right. Okay. The reason teleport chambers were taken out of the player cities or the holdings was because we feel that all players should benefit from them, and not just the people who own cities and holdings. So basically how it works is you go to a teleportation chamber, you activate it, and you choose which one you want to travel to, which is kind of different. So in a sense, we have introduced moon gates. And as you can understand, in a competitive game like Darkfall, these will become hotspots for all kinds of activity. And this is one of the features that can change the game dynamic quite a bit. So we'll be keeping a close eye on it and you're prompting community discussion on it. But I think it's going to be exciting. This is a PvP game. It's good to have these things out in the open instead of inside somebody's city and so forth. We want to prompt character interaction, and there's probably going to be a lot around these gates.
Cool. He also said the second question is AV has announced that cities are going to be tied to local villages to better kind of give incentives on city conquest. Considering the hundreds of thousands in golden siege weapons and all the sieging that can cost, how do you expect clans to kind of break even on the costs when they lay siege?
Okay.
It's a little complex, but it's
all right. It's important for us to make holdings more meaningful to own. It's one of the things the community is always discussing, and a lot of people were asking, so what's the point in owning a city? Other than the obvious points, strategic reasons and status reasons and all that, we've been working on solutions to make this more meaningful in an elegant way. So having said that, it's actually easy to make it really meaningful. The thing is, we don't want to force something, so it has to be done in an elegant way. So villages, for example, they become an incentive to capturing and holding, and they have the potential to provide resources to a clan that controls them. And I say potential because the clans that are around these villages, the clan cities that are around these villages, they can actually compete for ownership of these villages, but not clans that have cities further away. So the villages, they provide resources, and they also give you a cut from the rent. And housing is actually going to be they give you a cut of the rent. So the cut of the rents is something new, and associating villages to cities, it also promotes local competition or cooperation, and we feel this is good as well.
Cool.
So I haven't really answered the question, but we think it is meaningful to own holdings, and you will break even, but not just because you're going to have things, giving you resources and money and so on. But there's many other factors and things we're going to keep adding to the game that will keep making it meaningful.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, villages is tough. I mean, when you go into PvP with player holdings, it can be a big deal, and a lot of risks. Everybody knows that. Go ahead. Okay. The next question is from Ragnarok LOW. He said, "Can you confirm if friendly fire is still in the game, specific to guild and party members?"
Okay. Well, of course, this is something we would definitely never take out. And although in Asia they don't like friendly fire, and can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I got a little okay. So we don't want to change the way this works. We like it because it's tactical, friendly fire. Mm-hmm. A group that knows how to play together in Darkfall and can take advantage of formations and complement each other and not lose sight of who their teammates are and where the battlefield is and where they are in relation to each other. They always have an advantage. A group that's disoriented and disorganized, they start shooting each other, hitting each other with their own spells, and we think this is very cool. We think that a friendly fire separates, the really good team players from everyone else, and this is like a tactical layer to the game, and especially now with the roles, where group composition is going to be really important. And this is going to be so important, like the composition of your group, along with all the other tactical aspects of Darkfall. It's like adding another tactical layer, and we're really excited about this. And one of our goals for Darkfall Unholy Wars is to keep exploring new tactical layers and make the game a lot more interesting. And combat obviously is one of our most important features. So the role system is just going to add so much more to it. But friendly fire and everything else we had in the previous game, it's we don't want to remove things. We just want to keep adding and tactical elements to it that might fit together and make the game better.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think one of the best parts of big open world PvP is group composition and how your group fights as a team. It's always very cool to see across multiple games. It's one of my favorite elements that came into MMOs, and I love it. So I love that Darkfall is supporting that. It's a very cool system and gives, like you say, gives players that teamwork kind of feeling. And having friendly fire, hey man, you know what? You might as well go with it. So I think it's cool that it, like you said, I like the comment where you said it separates the really good players from people who are disoriented and focuses on teamwork. And I think that's a lot of fun, especially in a sandbox game like Darkfall. So go ahead.
It was a shame that in the previous game, the players ended up all being almost the same. So I think the roles now are going to actually make a big difference in how the game is played. It's going to make it a whole different game. Mm-hmm. So we're very excited about the potential for this.
Cool. The next question is from Yamota, and they ask, I know that the game is a sandbox, but even in a sandbox, you kind of need an end game philosophy. So what do you look at when you see Unholy Wars as your end game kind of philosophy? And obviously heavily with PvP, but are there any other elements to the game that you see coming into play at the end game?
Well, we don't really like the term endgame for Darkfall and Unholy Wars. We didn't like it for Darkfall either. I mean, when we talk about an endgame, it's like, let's finish all the quests, let's complete all the achievements and max out our character and take over the entire map. Some of these things might happen anyway, but over time. But if you're going to focus on the end game, is something you focus on like from the beginning, and this is my goal. And Darkfall is a dynamic game, and characters have many cycles in their life. So and priorities will change, and you got the clan dynamic, and you have the empire building and conquest, and there's many levels to operate on. So the closest thing we can think to like an end game we have epic mobs. Okay, this game has epic mobs. Quite different than what you were used to from the first game. This is something that could be like an end game type content, but we think more politics and sieges and striving to make a name for yourself and being part of a group that affects the history of the world. And these are really great things, and you can actually measure success in Darkfall. You can actually, it's clear. Somebody wins, somebody loses. Mm-hmm. There's still fuzzy lines. The level of success, and so that gives like room for people to dispute things, and so it's still interesting. However, we do have clear victory conditions, but these are not like game-ending conditions. These are conditions where you have it's one little aspect of the game, like Clan A takes over Clan B's holdings, which they might have been fighting for forever. This might be some kind of like huge goal for Clan A. And Clan B goes into another mode. They want to go back and take what's there. So what's an end game? So I think that the end game depends on a group or players' goals for the game, which in Darkfall and Holy Wars, it should be as dynamic as the game itself. So that's basically my answer. I know it's not very clear, but if I have to answer, we don't really see like a real end game unless one clan can take over the entire map and like control it forever, which we think is extremely improbable.
Right. To be honest with you, I agree with you. I think for Darkfall, to put the word end game on that type of game doesn't really make sense, but it's a question. They got it in. We asked it. So the next one is, will the game be available on distributors like Steam and other areas out there now with digital download being such a big deal?
Well, the last game, it was on a bunch of them. It wasn't on Steam.
Uh-huh.
Not that we didn't try, but now we just submitted into Steam Greenlight, and
awesome.
There's huge support for it, and we really want to thank the community for it. And Darkfall just broke into the top 100 games. It's working its way up, like in the record time. And we need to keep at it. I guess it's not clear how this thing works, but I'm sure that if Darkfall reaches like the top positions, I don't think they can ignore that. So it's just the rules on which games get greenlit are not very clear. So our goal is to reach the number one spot. So I figure there's nowhere to go from there. So Steam it's a great platform and a great community, and our players have been asking for it for a long time, and they obviously appreciate it. And I think that Steam can benefit from our community as well, because we have a great community, and it's amazing to read all the comments on there and so on. We're very happy to go through the greenlight process. It's not something we weren't snubbing Steam before. We did try to get on it, but because we hadn't made it for our launch, it wasn't possible for us to get in after. It was at the time Steam. It wasn't easily accepting MMO games. So we hope Darkfall and Holy Wars gets on it. I'm gonna ask for as much support as possible in order for us to achieve this. It looks really good right now. I mean, the progress is amazing. The game is like in the top 100. It's working well, but we need to sustain this effort, I suppose. So, we really appreciate the help from the community here.
Cool. Yeah, it's a big deal. I think with the community support, and I'm even seeing people saying it on the chat, like go vote for Darkfall on Steam, get it going.
Yeah.
I think it's a good deal. I can't imagine it not being on there. It's very cool. So it's exciting.
The community has been amazing here. I mean, we expected they would support the game because this is something they wanted themselves. But this has been like really touching. All the support we're getting.
Yeah. I think people are going to like the next couple questions because everybody's asking about Limbo. I've just seen it stream, Limbo. But the other one I'm going to get to right before the Limbo question was the gameplay videos in Unholy Wars show that you can queue and transfer heal spells even without holding a staff. Can you talk a little bit about how spell selection is going to work in Unholy Wars?
Okay. There's abilities that you can use without a staff or anything else for that matter. So these are the common skills like heal self, and the transfer skills. You can execute this with empty hands. You might have seen a video that this is the animation, and the skill is executed with nothing, and there has no staff or no weapon. The warrior skills, they can be executed with a melee weapon, and elementalist ones, they need a staff. So the skirmisher skills are a bit more special, and some of them they require a bow, and some others executed with any other sort of weapon. So the way it works has to do with the philosophy of each school or role, and this is a fast-paced and a real-time game, and it's our goal to make the game faster and more intuitive and make combat even more fast-paced, and the switching around from staff to weapon to staff and so on, it was tedious and unnecessary. There's no real benefit for the player or the gameplay, and brings us to this point that you're going to find a lot of small conveniences like this. This is not the only one you're going to see in the game, and we tried to make this game a lot more user-friendly and more intuitive than the previous game. And we're going to keep doing this, and this is another point we're going to need community feedback and player feedback in order to keep the game fluid and fast-paced. And since nobody knows the game better than the players themselves, it's another area which we're going to need your feedback, and we'll be happy to tweak the gameplay experience based on this.
Cool. All right. The next one everyone's going to be excited about because it's endless Limbo going down chat. So we'll get to the big Limbo question, which is, is Limbo going to be included in launch? If not, when? And can you tell us any details about Limbo and how it works in Unholy Wars?
All right. Limbo, this is one of the completed features that we actually presented to the community. And we only present features we know are ready and ready to go into the game. So it's obviously ready to go into the game. Now, there was so much concern and so many arguments against it that we took this feedback and listened to the points against it, and we made a conscious decision to decide not to have it in the game for launch. And until we can evaluate how the game is going, and then make a final decision on how to implement it best, if at all. So, which brings another point. Limbo is a feature on which we've, as a developer, we potentially wasted time on. And when we presented to the community, there was an outrage, about it, because I think they read it wrong. But we do have to take this into consideration. And in the interest of efficiency on our end, we're probably going to be more communicative when it comes to features like this. We're going to probably start discussing them before we start implementing them, and try to get the player feedback beforehand, and get into the discussion on whether this feature is good or not. And now, I don't know if Limbo is going to make it in the game, but if it does, it's going to be balanced and good for the players and for the gameplay, and I think everyone's going to agree before we actually put it into the game. So the answer is no, it's not in at launch. But, it could be.
Right. Actually, when you said no, it's not going to be at launch, there was like cheers, streaming past on chat. But I think you brought up a good point, which is you want to before you enter a feature like that, you definitely want to get community feedback, run it on a test server, see what people think about it, and everything like that. And I think that's a smart move. I think keeping that community feedback coming in and listening to your player base works.
But I'm gonna say that I really think that in this case the players kind of misread like the way it's intended to work. However, I think that their feedback is probably the best feedback we can get on our feature. So as I said, we'll keep the discussion open. We're gonna, as I said, we're putting together a much improved feedback loop where we're gonna have like players interacting with developers, and we're gonna start discussing this again. Maybe we can actually, maybe everyone can be happy about this feature before it goes in. And I think that what we were trying to achieve with Limbo was make battles even faster than they are now. Like not have people dying on the battlefield and then almost not being able to get back to it. But of course, without trying to unbalance the game in the process. So I'm glad everyone's happy. At least that's good.
Yeah, I definitely, like I said, I think I think more games are going to go that way. More MMOs that I'm seeing for the next couple of years are all really getting testers in and high-level players and high-level guilds to come in and test systems and talk about them. And I think it's definitely a good way to go. Everybody else is asking about the crafting questions, and those are all coming streaming by. So we'll get to the question by Edward22, which is, will there be any caps, roles, or specialization system in crafting, and that will stop a player from being a master in all crafting types? So let's talk a little bit about the crafting system for Unholy Wars, and everybody's jonesing to hear it. So.
All right. I don't think they're going to be happy with what we're going to say here, but I'll actually defend our selection. Mm-hmm. So there is no limit to how many crafting skills you can learn and have active at the same time. So no, but this is the defense of this. Not everyone is a crafter, okay, in Darkfall and Holy Wars. So and there's so much more in Darkfall and Holy Wars than there was in the previous game to do for non-crafters. So there's not going to be there's probably not going to be enough time to deal with the entire crafting process. It's not just like the actual crafting. You have to do the gathering. There's so much of it.
Right.
So we also anticipate the need for crafted items to be higher. And so we didn't want to impose artificial barriers because we feel that the crafting path is going to be hard enough. Now, since we have listened to all the arguments about crafting the community has to offer, we want to keep discussions like this alive. But on this, we had to use our best judgment. And this is, what I was talking about earlier. We're comparing this game with the previous game. Mm-hmm. I think it's a mistake. The previous game is very different than this one. In this game, you're not going to have so much downtime where you can, if you're not like the crafting type, I'm not the crafting type. I just like to play the game. I'm like an action player, so I want to actually pursue PvP and these kind of things. I don't want to deal with crafting. So I'm not going to have so much downtime like perfecting my roles and PvPing and doing my clan stuff. So I think that if we're going to break it up like that, it's just not going to be very. It's not going to be good for the people who are crafters in the end. Mm-hmm. So I know people are probably not happy about this, but this is the way we've done it, but we are open to looking at it, in practice as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, that's fine. A lot of people are asking about the banking question as well, and we do have it right here. From Zerglet is asking, will we see regional banking? And a lot of players want this, and this mechanic will add a lot of kind of sand to mold the world with. So can you talk a little bit about the banking system and the regional banking if it's going to be explored?
Yes. So a lot of players asked for this, and so we obviously looked into it. And there's been epic discussions internally, but it's not in our current plans. There's people here that are defending this election, defending local banking inside the company. So, but in the end, while we do understand all the arguments and the main concern is how this is going to affect combat and player willingness to participate in it, and especially when it's further away from their location. And we're worried that it could discourage newbies from exploring and going out further and make the game more tedious and affect player mobility. However, we do understand the potential for positive gameplay advantages that might come out of having local banking, people moving stuff around, and people trying to exploit this and so on. We understand this, but we're using our judgment to implement it the other way. And however, we want to keep this discussion alive. This is one of these discussions that we're kind of torn internally as well. It's just that this is the decision we made. But we are open to discussing it further. We know that local banking works well in some other games and so on. We just think that in this game it might not translate as well.
Okay, cool. We talked. The next question is coming from Ria Care, and talking about the game user interface. And if the game user interface is customizable, can you change the shape of the bars and things like that? Can you talk a little bit about that topic?
Yeah. At this point, the interface, it doesn't have that many customization options apart from which windows you want to have open in GUI mode. So we feel that this user interface is both it's suitable for newbies and for advanced players. And if you saw the developer diary, Torque Shaw, one of our developers, did, our user interface was designed with, it's actually a hybrid. Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me?
That's right. So it's a hybrid of usability and top player configuration. So you have we've actually used configurations that were used by top players, but we also factored in usability to this. And we're constantly receiving feedback, and we'll continue doing so in order to provide optimal options for the GUI. And on our end, it's not really a problem to make it configurable, and this is something also in our plans. We just didn't have the time to do it properly, so we've left this out. So right now, it's basically what you see. However, it's very good, and I think players are going to find it very useful and like it. They probably already have they've actually seen the GUI in the videos. Probably they had some feedback about that. I think it's going to work out pretty well, and in the process we will add customization options to it, more customization options to it.
Cool. I know you've talked about some of the classes, and I'm not trying to spring this on you, but everybody is mentioning the Primalist on chat. I don't know if you can talk about it or not, so it's up to you, but I'm seeing a lot of people talk Primalist, so I want to at least throw it out there.
Yeah, I can say that we fought until the last minute to get into the game for launch. We didn't make it, but we will have it right after launch. It's our first priority, actually, to get this into the game. Awesome. So while we didn't make it for the launch, we're going to have it right after. It's one of the things that it might be our first thing, our first priority, actually, to get into the game. And it's not going to take long at all. Right after we deal with the launch issues, we're just going to immediately implement this class.
Awesome.
So this is actually the plan. Awesome. It's not awesome. We wish that we could have had it in, and we fought to get it in, but we had to stop developing at some point, and so it didn't quite make it.
Hey, listen, I think everybody understands, us especially, development is strict, it's a lot of different things you can try to put in, what features you can go with and not. I think the good news about that is that you guys have it on your mind as a priority, and that's the best part. For us, I always say MMORPGs are marathons; they're not sprints, and I think that's key to the development is being able to see something like that and say, hey, look, guys, it's on the plate, and that's important.
Well, Primalist happens to be our number one priority, not a top priority. The number one priority has to be the Primalist. So it's obviously important for the game. I don't think it's going to affect someone's first couple of weeks, but I think that that we're going to get it in as quickly as possible. So
awesome. Yeah. We're coming down to the last couple of questions, but I wanted to ask one from Herta, which talks about running and swimming in heavy armor and high carry weight influence on your speed with the new momentum.
Well, we looked at this during the first game, and we had this discussion, and we rejected this idea because it has to do with the level playing field, and another one is this is a hassle for the player, and there were some minor technical issues with this as well that might affect performance, and we didn't want that. So no, this is not in the game, and actually it's not even something we're considering, and we have heard it from players, but that doesn't seem to be like one of the top requests. So we haven't looked at it, to be honest, that much. I mean, we haven't spent like so much time researching. But I remember, like in the first game, we kind of said no, and we kind of stayed on that kind of philosophy for the game. It goes along with different players having different running speeds and so on. It's not so easy to implement, and we don't feel it's going to add so much to the gameplay. I understand it's going to it would add like some realism to the game, but I mean, so would player having to eat and so on. It might just be it might just be tedious for some players. I understand that a lot of people might find it interesting, but I think in the end it doesn't make a huge difference in the gameplay. So.
Yeah, no, that's true. Another question that I'm seeing a lot of on the chat, and I wanted to just mention it, is the drag and drop loot. Can you talk a little bit about how the loot system is going to work? And a lot of players seem to be really, really big on it. So I just wanted to see if that's something you can mention.
Well, no, I can't actually talk about that right now. If that's okay. So, I can make a note of this, and we can talk about this properly. But I'd rather somebody else talk about this rather than me. So, but yeah, if that's okay with you.
Of course, no problem. People understand, and like I said, it's something the community is bringing forward in the chat. So it's definitely something you guys can look at. All right, another question we had was from Fitzpatrick, which is when will the auction house be implemented? So I'll let you go on to the auction house question.
Well, it's not an auction house exactly. It's like a market. It wasn't looking good for the launch, but we almost made it, and you're actually going to be able to see the market stall in the game. It's just not going to be operational, but soon it will be. So the only element that remains to be finalized for the market is the user interface that the players use to interact with it, and it didn't quite make it for launch, but it's close. So it's one of those features we tried to get in for launch, but didn't. We don't think it's going to make a huge difference. By the time it gets in, I think that's when it's going to be fine for players.
Okay, cool. I know there was a couple other things you wanted to mention to players, because that finishes my question list. So I thought maybe you have a chance to kind of talk to the community a little bit and tell them some of the things we talked about before. So go ahead.
One of the things that, because some people have been asking about transfers and characters and so on, one of the things we're going to do different in this game, our account system is different. So it's going to the way characters and character transfers is going to work is different than from the original Darkfall. And in the previous system, it wasn't really everything we were dreaming of. So, and we also felt pretty bad about what happened with the North American server. The older players will remember this. They had to actually buy the game to play on the North American server. That's because we had a publishing partner for Europe that kind of forced us to make this happen. And now that we're independent, we're going to have players are going to have on their one account, they can have characters on either server. Actually, they can have characters on both servers. And this is quite different than the way it worked before. Transfer will also work similar to how it works now, but I think there might be less of a need for it if you can have like a character on either server. I think a lot of people might find this interesting, and we can actually announce this now. So I am, and there's another thing that I wanted to say. About the clan ranks. The way this works, I saw a question by somebody, and the way the clan ranks work now has nothing to do with the previous game where they were assigned. They're determined by kills during sieges, and they have nothing to do with permissions. The permissions work with you actually assign permissions to managers. So, but the clan ranks, they have to do basically with your performance and during sieges. So I think that's quite interesting and a different way to implement this. So that's basically it for anything extra that I had to say. I just noticed those two questions. I thought we might address those as well.
Sure. No, the best part when you mentioned the character on the two servers, everybody, it's a huge stream of happiness. I think that's exciting. I think it's really cool for the community. So awesome. Tasos, listen, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know it's afternoon for you. It's morning for me. But I hope the community's happy. We certainly had a lot of questions. You got a heck of a community, very passionate, and I think it's great. I think the steps you're taking with Unholy Wars is amazing, and like I said, with MMORPG, we're happy to see it at #1. It's really cool that the sandbox world and the hardcore PvP still has a place in MMOs after a bunch of games come out and stepped away from that format. So I always think Darkfall has a good place out there. So thanks so much for taking time this afternoon. It was really great.
Thank you, and thanks to everyone that woke up this early to listen to this. And I hope we can do this again. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, if you want, when you get ready closer to launch, and when you guys are ready, we'll do another one to go over launch. That'd be awesome.
Sure.
Awesome. Thanks again, Tasos. We appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for logging in and checking it out. I'm really glad we could talk to the Darkfall guys. And like I said, I've known Tasos a long time. I haven't seen him. I think it was E3 2006 was the last time we hung out. So it's good to see you, man. And thanks so much for taking time. We appreciate it, everybody.
Thanks.
All right.